team of the tournament. There's no markets on Pinnacle, but it's kind of fun to look into and maybe project some players that we think can be difference makers at this tournament. A team of the tournament, it was scaled back from 23 down to 11 for the past 2 editions of this tournament. Largely, they come from teams that are in the final. 6 players that were in the final in 2016, 5 other players who took part in the semifinal in 2020. 5 Italian players were part of the team of the tournament, 2 English, 2 semifinalists, and Romelu Lukaku was the odd one as Belgium were eliminated at the quarterfinal stage. So let's throw out some names, some players that may intrigue that you're keeping your eye on for this tournament, or players that may find their way or make their way into team of the tournament consideration. We'll start with you, Jake. Who are you keeping your eye
on? French goalkeeper Mike Maignan. I think he... Lloris was okay in the World Cup, but I think Magnan's a step up, and I think he's not quite the missing piece because France have been very close to success, but I think he's going to elevate France's back line even more. He's definitely one to keep an eye on.
Okay, some names for me that I'm considering. Some of them we've already said. I think that very easily to conceive that a Bruno Fernandes will make his way into a team of the tournament. Same thing with the Portuguese goalkeeper, Diego Costa, because I don't think that they have the toughest path, and that means good things for a goalkeeper. And look at the defenders. Look at the team in front of them. I just don't think that there's a weak link in this Portuguese side. And him, based upon clean sheets or the numbers, could be a player that makes his way in. Same thing for João Cancelo, because I think that he's going to play. He's going to be one of the reliable fullbacks in this Portuguese side. I think it's realistic that he makes his way in. And I'll just add another player to the mix, and we'll see who Martinez leans upon. But Bernardo Silva, based on his quality, I will load up on Portuguese players because I think they have the most likely path and the best path to make it to a semifinal where those players will be in consideration. I mentioned the 2 for Germany that I rate, Florian Wirtz and Toni Kroos. I think that both those players can make their way in. Gundogan I would consider as well. For France, Kylian Mbappe and N'Golo Kante. And when you're voting on these things for team of the tournament, they like kind of the fullbacks that can maybe chip in with a goal, a brilliant moment. Theo Hernandez could very well be that player for France as well. So I could see a player like him, just like Pavard in the past. It could be Hernandez this time around. And for England, it wouldn't go much further than maybe a Harry Kane, based upon some of the arguments that I already made. Like, although that you have Ollie Watkins and Ivan Toney, there is under no circumstance in big games that Harry Kane is coming off the field for me. Not like Thomas Tuchel in the Champions League. Harry Kane should be a mainstay. He takes penalties. He does everything for this England side. And I think that he can very well find himself in that kind of conversation. I'm not sure if you want to add any other name. Like, those are the 4 teams that I think are most likely to end up in a semifinal. Portugal, Germany, France, and England. That's why I turn the focus on them. But perhaps there's another layer of players that could be part of teams that do relatively well in this tournament who end up catching the eye. Are there any players that kind of fit that billing for you, Jake, or is it more of the same in terms of backing players who are going to play a significant role for the favorites?
There's just 2 players that I like that are potentially under the radar. Konrad Laimer at Austria, just purely with the fact that he plays in a more advanced role for Austria than he does for his club side. Plays further forward, is more of a right winger, so you get potential to increase attacking stats throughout the tournament. And then Nico Williams at Spain. He's not guaranteed a starting berth, but I think by the end of the tournament, he will have nailed down a spot in that starting 11. I mean, the guy's just absolutely electric. He's fantastic to watch. He's an absolute handful. He's had a great season for Bilbao. He had limited minutes in qualifying. I think it was 222 minutes. So what's that? The equivalent, less than 3 full matches. But he still racked up 3 assists and completed 11 key passes, 7 dribbles. So he made his mark. And he's the kind of player that just gives defenders nightmares. Great 1v1, eye catcher, the kind of player that you could easily see getting momentum for a team of the tournament.
Yep. Just a couple other quick names. Dominik Szoboszlai for Hungary. If there's going to be any success, I mean, he is the main man in a very just group that's, more about this, rather than the individual players, it's the sum of the parts. But Szoboszlai is a crown jewel. I'm going to keep my eye on Rasmus Højlund for Denmark. My expectations are a little bit muted on Denmark, but if they do achieve something, he's very much part of it. Sticking with Austria, aside from Laimer, Marcel Sabitzer has been very good for Borussia Dortmund and plays a big role in a Ralf Rangnick side. And I wouldn't be surprised if he steps up and plays a much bigger role for that side as well. And there's a number of players on Ukraine. I know that Mihailo Mudryk has been on the outs in terms of his season with Chelsea, but in this Ukraine side, he can be a real decisive force in this Ukrainian team. And when he does play in that free-flowing way, he does catch the eye. So those are just a couple other players for other teams that I think could, win a couple games, maybe win a knockout round or two, and maybe become part of that conversation.